Okay, this is David Turner. I'm going to talk about an assignment that's part of a course I'm teaching called Server Programming. And this is a course being offered in the winter quarter 2011 at Cal State San Bernardino. And this is the, right here, February 4th. This is the February 4th assignment. And so basically I'm going to go into this to talk about this. Now in this assignment, you need to get this Google App Engine Message App retrieved from a repository and set up and running. And that's an application that I put together just for this class. And also part of the assignment is to study the documentation. The related documentation is extensive. And studying that documentation, accessing it regularly is important if you want to develop your skills in this area. So I want to remind everybody that you need to keep at the documentation on a very regular basis. You should get some reading done every day, including experiments based on your reading. And once again, that's the other point. You need to perform experiments to solidify your understanding of the material. And basically, that's what I do. Right? This Google App Engine message application is my experiment that I developed out of reading the documentation. So that's for you to take over and do independently of me at some point. In fact, you'll be doing that. But this is the last exercise that will be carefully guided. The remaining two exercises require a lot more research and work on your side. I'll still be involved in guiding and advising for these remaining two exercises, but those are designed for the students the students to work out more on your own than you have been so far. So today I'll be going over this message app, which I put together to illustrate the different techniques and concepts that you need to know in order to solve this exercise for February 28, and also for the next exercise of March 20. Of course, this exercise that's due on March 20 also relies on the material that we covered in the previous quarter in this class. We'll talk about that later. All right, getting back to here, let's take a look at this message application. Let's just go ahead. I've got that deployed, so let's take a look at that. You'll see there's a link up here to check messages. I'm going to click that. And I am logged into Google, on my Google account right now. So this application communicates with the Google account system and asks for whether if there is in fact a logged in Google user trying to access the application. And if there is, and I believe there's a window that asks for permission to the user whether this particular application can access that fact, and then once that's granted, then the application has access to this user object. And out of the user object, you can get the Google ID, and my ID is this CSUSBDT. That's the ID that I am logged in under right now in this browser instance. And here is another ID that's Aldo, who is working with me this quarter on helping me work through some of this material prepared for you. That I asked him to check the application. So he was also logged in, and he left this message. So basically, an authenticated Google user can leave one message or delete it. So here's my message. I'll delete the message, and now I can create the message. And please leave a message to test my application. So when you do this exercise, please come here and leave a message. That would be great. I could help me better test this application. Now this logout link, this will log me out of the Google services in general. So I've logged out from all of the Google applications at this point. As you see here, when I go to access this this system here, that I get redirected to an authentication screen that's served by Google, not my App Engine. So you can see by the URL, this is a HTTPS. It's a validated connection to accounts.google.com, and so I'm going to submit my username and password through Google as opposed through my my application. And I've got this extra security attached to my account, so that whenever I need to do this, I get a message to my cell phone. So hold on one moment while I pause the video. F3. All right, I think I got that. Good, I got that started there. Oh, I didn't need to pause actually, but I did type in my verification code. This was sent to my cell phone, which is great. So I can verify that. You see, it's a little inconvenient to log out, but I like the extra protection that provides in case someone gets my password. All right, so that's what that application looks like. Let's go back to. It's a simple application, but it illustrates the techniques that you need to know to solve this later problem, which is to build a wiki. And it's a very simple wiki, so it's not an extensive a problem that you need to work on. It's pretty straightforward. But all the answers that you need, most of them anyway, are in this this message application. All right, let's take a look at the source code. Now, rather than to list all of the files and their contents here with a description of how to put everything together like I did in the previous exercise, I don't want to do that. There's simply too many files, and I don't think it's good use of your time at this point. So what we're going to do is check out my application from GitHub. That's where I have it right here. And so what we'll do is we'll check that out into Eclipse, and then look at the source code together. We'll run it, deploy it, and then talk about it. So hopefully this is going to be a relatively short setup process for you, and with the extra time that you have, you need to perform experiments and read the documentation. So I'm going to keep repeating that over and over again. So here's the link to the project as it's hosted on GitHub. This is a free open source project, so I can use GitHub to maintain that for me. So this is in a Git repository. This is where the link brings me. This we can actually look at the source code by browsing through here. Here's the SRC folder, the package hierarchy here, and these are some of the source code here. Here's the home servlet right there. Okay, so we're not going to be copying these files. We're going to be checking this out, and as you can see, that we have the URL right there. So this is what you need. Let's copy that. I'm going to copy that, and let's start Eclipse. Let me grab Eclipse. Wherever you have that 405 folder and Eclipse installed, start that up. So this is the standard workspace that I've been working in. You can have many more workspaces. And this is just the workspace that I've been using, which is located right here. And in this workspace I have one project, the jQuery project. And that's from a previous exercise. So we're going to create a new project with this this Git repository. So I'm going to close these windows out. And now we have a Git repository to interact with. So what I'm going to do is go over here to the this Open Perspectives icon, select Other, and look for Git Repository Exploring. We'll select that. So we're changing the perspective. Perspective is simply a collection of views. It's the same Eclipse environment, just has a different collection of views. Oh, and I should have talked about that message. Let me go back and see if I can get that back again, but I can't. Let me go back and explain. Let's see if I could trigger that message again. I shouldn't have skipped over that. I wanted to talk about it. All right. Let's see if restarting Eclipse will do that. Here it is. It's trying to open directly in this Git repository perspective, and it's saying that the environment variable home is not set. Home would be the path to your home folder, your home directory. And so the following directory will be used for storing the Git user configuration and as the default repository location. C:/users/Turner. If this is not correct, please set the home environment variable and restart Eclipse. Now under Linux, home is normally set and it points to your home directory. On OS 10, I'm not sure if home is set. I would guess that home is defined. On Windows, it's not by default defined. But I think that Eclipse's default location for the Git repository is okay with me, so I'm not going to change that. Now what will happen is a folder under this path will be created, and the project will be placed in there. Let's take a look at that location. So under C, users, and Turner. As you can see in here, if you look under the G's, there is no Git folder. But let's go ahead and see if that gets created for us. And it's not created yet. That's because I think we haven't checked anything out. So I'm going to right-click in this window, and here's my my option to paste the repository path or Uniform Resource Identifier, or URL. That's the other one. So that URI, in fact, that is what this is. This is the URI for the repository. If I put it in the clipboard, Eclipse will take it out automatically. Another way to do that, I'm going to guess, is to go up here and do something through here. And maybe you can't do anything up here. I don't see it there. Maybe the only way to do it, oh, here, these icons. Add an existing local Git repository. Clone a Git repository. And create a new Git repository, and so on. But I have not experimented with those yet, so I'm going to do this. I'm a bit new to Git. I've been using Subversion most of the time, and I'm learning Git as well. This is for me, it's a replacement for Subversion, or an alternative. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that repository. There it is. There's the URI. This is the host name. That's how to find the GitHub servers. This is the path relative to this host of where my repository is, and the rest of this will all be default. Password, well, I can. This is for writing back into the repository, and I could fill this out and then be authenticated to write back into the repository. But I'll do this as if I were you, so I won't enter a password in there. You will not have a password. You will only have read access to to the repository. This is called the branch, the master branch. That's the standard branch that you'll see people working in. But people switch branches a lot at Git, by the way. But let's go with the defaults. And this shows us the directory. So it's going to place the files under this Git folder, under this default folder location that we accepted earlier. And this is the name, this is the locally stored name of where we retrieved the repository from. So let's leave that there. It's called a remote. This is the initial branch. I'm not going to get into those details. I'm not that knowledgeable yet, although I can get it to work, but I'm not that fluent in the language and concepts of Git to talk about it very well. So let's get that checked out. It's taking a little bit of time here. There we go. So here it appears here. We might need to do something more. Let's take a look at this this folder here. This is a C users Turner. You'll see there's now a Git folder, and here is the project and the message application. This is in fact all checked out. Let's look at, there's the home servlet that we looked at on the web. So that's there. That's good. That's finished. And let's see if that is in fact, that is not yet a project. So we come back into here. And let's go ahead and make this a project. Now here it says the working directory. In fact, this is the working directory. And the project, the Eclipse project, will be here. As you can see, inside this is called the Git working directory. And in the Git working directory, there's a subfolder there called .git, and that in fact has the full history of the project, all of the changes from the first commit to the last, and in the same working directory we have the Eclipse project. As you can see, the .class path.project. These are control files that Eclipse uses to manage the process of building and building the project and working with the project. So in fact, this folder here is the Eclipse project. Let's go ahead and do import projects. I think we do it from this this location. Let's try it. And this is the import existing projects. I think it's working. So let's go back to the Java perspective. It's still working. Let's give it a moment. Let's give it a moment. And let's go back to this Java perspective. And you'll see that now we have a new Eclipse project called Message. And it has some information about the name of the Git repository that where this application comes from. It's the master branch of this Git repository. All right, so let's looks like everything is building right off the bat. I don't know if you need to go in here and configure. Maybe we need to do that. Let's take a look at the Java compiler. Oh, look at this, 1.6. It's already set on 1.6, but it may be that yours is set on 1.7. You must go in here and enable project-specific settings and set that to 1.6. That may actually be something that's comes in from the repository. I'm not sure about that. Let's take a look. Let's do a little investigation into Eclipse, try to learn a little bit more about it. I'm going to show an additional view called a navigator. This gives me access to the file system. Let's take a look at the it's is it this class path or the project? Let's look at the project file. That came in from the repository, and there's no information in there about the compiler level. Let's look at the class path. Once again, there's no information in there as well about the class path, but the settings looks like the let's take a look at that. I think it might be, like in here, look at this file, this under .settings, there is a property in there, and this is the property name, which is a long name, and this is the property value. This is here's the compliance. There it is. Looks like these are very similar. This is the compiler compliance level setting that's stored in the project. Now the question is that something that came through from the repository? Well, let's investigate. Let's go ahead and dig in. Here's .settings. Here's this. Here's the file we're looking at. In fact, there it is right there. So we can see on the website that came in from with the project, as part of the project. That means you won't need to make that setting when you check this out. I think everything is ready to run. Let's go ahead and right-click that thing and do debug as web application. Now I have this debug window open down here. This is where I like to access, and I've given recommendations on that in earlier videos, and also I've mentioned that in the write-ups in the web pages that provide guidance and instructions on these exercises. So please, this is the console window. I don't see any error messages, so please use this this debug view. If you don't see it, you need to go into show view, other, and open up the debug branch, and then select debug. Of course, it's already in there, so I already have mine open. So this is running, and as you can see from the console, that we have a link to the locally running version of this application. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Click messages. As you can see, it's just like the one that is deployed on Google, but different from the one that's deployed on Google. We don't actually use the authentication mechanism provided by Google. We're using a simulated Google authentication mechanism that's just all handled locally. So you can see the link here. We didn't go to a Google host name. We're still running on localhost. We're submitting our email address here and logging in. We don't even need a password. It just assumes that we log in under this with this email, and I think this is used as the ID. We can put anything in there. I'll put AAA. Let's go ahead and log in. As you can see, there are no messages. When we create the message, we're going to say like hello there, and let's save the message. As you can see, the Google ID, which is AAA, is now listed, and then we have the message. We can delete that message and create a new one. Hello there again, just to see that that's a different message. Let's log out. Now let's go back to the application. We're logged out, and let's log in now, not as AAA, but as BBB. As you can see, AAA has left his message there. Now BBB will leave a different message. Go ahead and save that. So we can have, as you can see, the application supports any number of Google users, and this information is stored in the Google Datastore. Of course, with the deployed application storing the information in the real Google Datastore, but the application that's running locally here for development purposes, that data is being stored in a locally managed data store. In fact, we can look at that. Let's go back into Eclipse, and if you look in this war folder under WebINF. WebINF, by the way, is a subfolder under war that is not visible to browsers. So the web server will not let anybody in through WebINF. Everything else, the CSS folder, JS folder, and all these other objects under WAR are visible, except for everything under WAR INF is not directly accessible by the browser. Let's, as you can see in there it is. These are the Datastore Indices. That's something related to configuring the Datastore Indices. But then there's the, maybe it's under classes. There's another meta INF in there. This is Datastore configuration as well. Let's take a look at that. This configures how the Datastore works. But I don't see the actual Datastore file where things are stored, and I don't see it in here. Of course, it wouldn't be in there, and I don't see it in there. I don't know where it's being placed, but it's there somewhere. Maybe if we look out here. Let me look at that later. We'll probably run into it later, so I'm going to wait on that. So this is the application. It's now running. That's how it works. And actually, let's answer that question about the Datastore. Maybe I need to write it out. If we shut down the application, let's go ahead and terminate. Maybe that flushes it out of the cache, something like that. And we'll open this WebINF again. And I don't see it there. And I'll look under Live. And I don't see it there either. So I don't know where that thing is being... oh, maybe it's up in here. It's not in the WAR folder. It's somewhere else. It's... is it under Settings? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to find this. I'm going to pause the video while I search for this. Alright, I found it. It wasn't that hard. Actually, it only took me a moment. When I started to dig into, through Git here, this is the, just to show you where I am, see users turn or Git. And we dig into this application, or I was looking in the right place. Here it is, App Engine Generated under WebINF. And notice here under Navigator, under WebINF, I don't see that App Engine Generated folder right here. We go in there. Here's the local _db bin. This is a binary file. It's on the end without bin. I'm not going to bother to open it. Let's see if we view it with view content. I've never done that before. And anyway, I'm not sure what that does. View list. That's better. The reason that this folder is not visible in here is because the Google App plugin that created the folder did not update this the data structure that the Navigator view uses to present its view of the file system. There's a simple solution to that. Well, we just right click here and do refresh. So refresh is saying, Navigator, go and reread the file system, make sure that you have everything that you have cached. That's make sure that you know that you have that you're making everything visible that's out there. So once again, there is the file, and that's where the data store data is stored. And we can delete that when we like. It'll just be regenerated, but we'll of course lose the information. If we start the application up again, let's relaunch, and you'll see that we're still here. Okay, something's wrong. It was still starting up. But if we shut down the web server, let's go ahead and terminate. And let's go ahead and let's manually delete that. Let's see if we break anything, right? So we just kill that. And now let's go ahead and start this up again. We're going to relaunch. So wait for it to finish this time. And you'll see there's no error messages related to that deletion. It is reading things related to the here it is, the app engine and so on. Let's go ahead and look what happens here. Let's refresh this view. This is still just the locally cached instance of this web page by the browser. Let's refresh that. You'll see that there's nothing there. That's because we wiped out the data store. And let's go ahead and oops, cancel that. I'm going to log out. I'm going to log in as AAA. That's the reason just to keep things simple. And hi. There we go. Log out, access, log in as BBB, and we create the message by. So, all right, there we go. So we have something in the data store to talk about anyway. I want to show you the other URL here, which is this is the admin interface to the application. Now this is the local development version of the admin interface. This gives you similar information that you would get by going to Google's admin interface, and there's links for that in the. I'll just show that to you. This is I'm going to go to the quick link. Excuse me. Go to quick links and take a look at the. There it is. This is the local view, but this is the remote view. This is the same thing. Well, it's not the same thing, but it provides a similar capabilities. The GAE Admin Console. It's taking a while to bring up. While we're waiting on that, let's go here, and well, we'll open a new window on that. Let's look at our local view. There it is. _AH. They use that because they assume that, well, no one's ever going to use _AH, so that's a safe path to use to get to this this functionality. So as you can see, we've got a data store viewer, task queues, all this other stuff in here, inbound mail, and this is the thing that by default it shows the data store viewer, and it has these other categories of functionality. But let's take a look at the data store viewer, and you can see in here that there's you can list all of the entities of an entity kind. It's a drop-down box. Here's a message parent, and then you have message. There's two different kinds of entities. Let me go back to here. This is the data store viewer. I'm sorry. This is the GAE Admin Console. And if you look here, let's take a look at that. This is the deployed application that we're running locally here. So, you know, we can list the entities. So I'll list the entities. Look at this. It shows the key value. It's two different key values, and these are different. They look similar up to a point. Here they are, in fact, different. Look at this. How many write operations have been performed on that entity? So there's that minute level of detail being recorded for these entities. That's interesting. I believe that this number is related to how much money you're going to pay to keep your application running in the Google Cloud. So it's important to minimize the number of writes. It's expensive for Google to implement a write, and so that's where I believe most of the cost is going to be transferred to you through some kind of a pricing mechanism. So that's important information. This is the ID. So this is the unique ID for this key, and for this entity rather. This is the CSRF token. This is an application generated number. These IDs, although we could pick our own IDs, that it's recommended in the documentation that you let the data store generate its own IDs. It provides some useful properties that so unless you really need to generate your own ID, specify your own ID, it's probably simpler to let the data store generate one for you, which we do. Now the rest of this data is data that we have placed attached to these entities in the application. So when, as you can see, this is AAA. That's the nickname field. So we're logging in through this, I guess, the nickname, and that we logged in as AAA, and the application generated this token, which is a secret, which is changed occasionally. I think it's changed when I can't remember the policy. We'll have to look at the application. We'll look at that. This is a security feature that the sample application is illustrating, called a cross-site reference forgery attack. This is a token that's used to guard against those kind of attacks. This is the text, that's what's displayed, the message, and this is the user ID. Actually, this represents the string that is unique, that's used to locate this entity. In fact, I don't know why this ID column is here. We will be using this user ID field to uniquely identify these entities. Now there's another entity kind in here called message parent. I'm going to click list entities. There's one in there, and it's simply, this is the parent entity for all instances of kind message. So these entities all have a common parent, which is of type or kind message parent. And so this is show indices, and an index is something that's used to look up entities in the data store. So if you want to look up an entity based on its user ID, you got to have an index built to do that, and there is in fact one there. If you want to look up a user based on his or her nickname, you got to have another index built for that purpose. This index is just like a hash table, just like a lookup table. You know, you give me a nickname, AAA, and I'm going to go into my table. I'm going to jump to the key value AAA in an efficient way, you know, through binary search or other mechanism, and I get to AAA, and then I got a pointer to quickly access the entity that has that value for the nickname AAA. So these are indices. Now, the data store will build these indices on the fly as needed. So if we try to do a lookup on one of the other attributes or properties, one of the other properties of the entity, then it will build an index for that. That's an interesting experiment that we could try. For instance, we could issue a query in the data store to find one of these entities through its CSRF token, and then you will see that that when you click this indices link and go here, you will see that a new index will be built to perform those lookups. So it creates these indices on the fly. Now you don't have to wait for the indices to be created on the fly. In fact, you can give some advice to the data store about what indices will be needed, and you do that here. Here's the Datastore Indices.xml. This, by the way, this is, if it's present, it will be read and processed. If it's not present, this file will be generated. And here, and actually this is in the repo. I think I have a version of this. Let's take a look at that under war. WebINF, Datastore Indices. It's there, in fact. Here are the Datastore Indices. So we did check that out. And as you can see, we want an index to be built to look up entities by the user ID property, and we want another index to be built to look up entities by the nickname property. So in fact, the construction of those two indices was done because we told it to do it. But let's do an experiment. Let's go ahead and shut this down. Let's go while we're looking at this. Oh, hold it down. I need to go to my class.